This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore. Donald Trump is a braggart and a dullard. He's lived his life telling everyone that he's a self-made man who's created great things and massive wealth all on his own, with no help from anyone. This seems to be a feature of his personality. Now, I say that because he hasn't just done this in life by ignoring the hundreds of millions of dollars that his daddy, Fred Christ Trump, funneled to him. And yes, that is his real name. He has also done that as President of the United States and with the American economy. You see, Obama, just like Trump's daddy, gifted something to Donald Trump that he is now ignoring. Instead of acknowledging that the health and the robustness of today's economy is just a continuation of the Obama administration and its policies post-George W. Bush's Great Recession, Donald Trump would have you believe it is all his doing. As a reminder, at the end of George W. Bush's presidency in 2007 and 2008, because of several different factors such as relaxing lending standards and subprime lending, exceedingly low interest rates, and regulators generally being asleep at the wheel, the United States was plunged into what is known as the Great Recession. During this period, over 8 million people lost their jobs. 4 million homes were being foreclosed upon every year, and 2.5 million businesses shuttered their doors. The stock market was also in complete shambles. Both the Dow and the S&P 500 lost over half of their respective values. But Barack Obama took office, and he and his team got to work to steer the U.S. economy back on track. And after all their hard work, a winning upward trend line is what Donald Trump was gifted. And again, rather than being grateful for the handout from the man who came before him, he takes credit for that which he did not create. Let's take a look at the actual numbers. The Trump economy versus Barack Obama's. The Washington Post just published a bunch of charts for comparison's sake. I'll link to Heather Long's work in the description below.
Since the election, we've added a number that nobody would have believed and that I would have never said on the campaign trail. I wouldn't have said it because they would have done a big number on me. 3.7 million new jobs, including close to 400,000 jobs in the manufacturing world. Remember? Remember when they said manufacturing is dead? Oh, it is? Well, who's going to make things? I mean, tell me. Manufacturing is dead, they said. We've added 400,000 incredible jobs.
Not only hasn't Trump done anything dramatic or record-setting on the job numbers front, these data are clear. Obama's performance on this metric was far more successful than anything Donald Trump has been able to show. In fact, toward the end of his second term, the Obama economy was adding over 250,000 jobs per month, a number which Donald Trump has failed to reach.
Was the number 86% in favor of Trump? A tremendous percentage. Total unemployment is now at a 17-year low. Think of that. Not bad. Not bad after 10 months. It's only going to get better.
When Obama became president in January of 2009, in the very worst part of the Great Recession, the unemployment rate was 7.8%. In October of that very same year, it peaked at 10%, which was only 9 months into his presidency. Starting in November of 2009, the unemployment rate fell every single year, and by the time Obama left office, it was sitting at 4.7%. The U.S. unemployment rate has followed that exact same trend line that began under President Obama. Trump didn't create or cause this. Just like the money he inherited from his daddy, he is benefiting from it.
Every day, for the last long period of days, the stock market, meaning companies, have been hitting new highs. The stock market has gained almost $3 trillion in value since the election on November 8th, a record. The stock market reached yet another all-time, in history, all-time high today, boosting the retirement savings, hopefully, of everybody in this room. Have you all been helped? I think so.
By this time in Barack Obama's presidency, the Dow Jones Industrial Average was up 46%, compared to 25% for Donny Boy. And as far as the S&P 500, well, according to Forbes, quote, from the day after Obama's election in 2008 until Trump's election 8 years later, the S&P 500 rose 113%. So far, since Trump's election, the index has increased 28%. From the graph below, it appears that the stock market has essentially carried on the momentum from Obama's tenure. And for all you MAGA hats out there, which do you think is better? An increase of 113% or 28%? I know. Take your time. Math is really hard. Speaking of math being hard, there's one area in which Donald Trump is totally beaten up on Barack Obama, although it's not a good one. It is deficit spending, which adds directly to the overall national debt, which currently sits at, as you can plainly see, well over $22 trillion. Let's compare Trump to Obama on this metric. When Obama took office, the deficit increased because of his necessary effort to save the United States economy and prevent Bush's Great Recession from turning into another Great Depression. After peaking at $1.4 trillion in fiscal year 2009, which was only 8 months after taking office, the federal deficit fell to a low of $438 billion in 2015, and then ticked up slightly to $585 billion in fiscal year 2016, just before Barack Obama left office. Again, though, in those first few years when deficits were insane, it was because government intervention to avoid a total collapse of the economy was absolutely necessary. Trump's deficits, which are on par with those emergency years of Obama's, are happening when the economy is, according to Donald Trump himself,
this is the greatest economy that we've had in our history, the best.
Which just adds insult to injury, because the economy is doing well right now, and we're still running national emergency type deficits. These kinds of deficits are irresponsible at the very least and dangerous, because what will happen if the economy falters even slightly? What happens when the economist predicted recession, which is looming, eventually strikes? Those over $1 trillion deficits will most certainly balloon to astronomically record-setting numbers. But Trump doesn't care. He's actually said as much. He doesn't care about the future of the country. He has no concern for the medium to long-term health of the nation. He knows he's creating an untenable mess to clean up for whomever the next president is. And this flies in the face of the many, many promises made by Donald Trump when he was a presidential candidate, and even since he's moved into the White House. In March of 2016, Trump sat for an interview with Bob Woodward of the Washington Post and promised to wipe out not only the deficit, but also the entire federal debt, which at the time was $19 trillion. Trump told Woodward, "We're not a rich country, we're a debtor nation. We've got to get rid of," I talked about bubble, "we've got to get rid of the $19 trillion in debt." To which Bob Woodward asks, "How long would that take?" Donald Trump, "I think I could do it fairly quickly because of the fact that the numbers," Bob Woodward then interrupts with, "What's fairly quickly?" And Donald Trump answered, "Well, I would say over a period of 8 years. Over a period of 8 years, that's over $2 trillion paid off the debt per year, which, again, for the MAGA hats out there, is impossible to do when you're running over $1,000 billion deficits per year. Listen, do you have someone you know who talks a tough game about Trump? Someone who has a fundamental misunderstanding of the facts related to these very real comparisons? Well, share this video with them and keep a watchful eye on Donald Trump, who will most certainly continue to lie and manipulate his supporters. Because look, there certainly exists a core group of Trump diehards out there who won't listen to reason, no matter how many times they hear it. But there are millions of Americans out there who know their first vote for Trump was a mistake, or at least are very close to being ready to realize it. And they need to be presented with the hard facts of this situation. Donald Trump needs to be gone, relegated to history as yet another unfortunate greasy stain on the fabric of our nation's history.